And really what I love to think about perspective is you really need to have a willingness to learn from your experiences and the willingness to be open to growing and cultivating a growth mindset. Welcome to Purposeful Podcasting. I'm Wendy.
And I'm Krystal. This podcast is meant to share how we and other entrepreneurs bring together purpose and passion to leverage profit in our businesses.
We are shining a light on adventure-loving, purpose-driven, action-minded, authentic, and rebellious entrepreneurs.
Just like us.
So join us as we talk about business and life and everything in between.
Welcome back this week to Purposeful Podcasting. My name is Krystal and I'm here with Wendy.
Hi.
I never know if I should let you say hello, goodbye. Anyway, well, not goodbye because we're just kicking off. And today we are talking about one of our personal top strengths, that is perspective, why it's important as an entrepreneur, because we've been talking in the background about lending each other perspective and perspective we give clients in big pictures of things. And so this topic of perspective keeps coming up. If you guys would recall, we did a podcast episode about strengths and why it's important to know your strengths. And if you haven't listened to that, we'll link in the show notes to that past episode. Perspective is one of the character strengths that we look at with clients. Anytime we work with new clients, we ask them to do a strength assessment via character strengths. Is that correct? Is that what it's called, Wendy? Via strengths assessment. Mm-hmm. Values and action. Thank you. I was like, what is via? I can't remember. So values and action. And this is more Wendy's bailiwick. So I'm going to pass it over to her here in just a second. Clearly more her bailiwick. Knowing your strengths and knowing your values, just real quick reminder for our audience, is so important because, again, it really helps you understand and become self-aware of what are you really good at, where can your pitfalls sometimes be, not your weaknesses, but sometimes your lesser strengths. Like what other things do we maybe need to outsource or exercise a little bit more and just be more conscious of. And when Wendy and I originally did this assessment, both of us score very high on perspective. And I think it's one of the things that makes us really great coaches. I think it gives us great ability to be insightful and kind of have a little bit of wisdom when it comes to speaking to things. So to get started, Wendy, what is perspective?
What is perspective? Perspective really is the ability to see the bigger picture in life. Whether you've experienced something or not, being able to see things as others see it as well, which I think is super important just in life in general, especially I think as female entrepreneurs, both through how we run our business and how we also work with our clients. Not just us, but entrepreneurs in general, as we work with customers and clients. When you have perspective, you aren't necessarily getting wrapped up in the weeds. You're able, it's able to see the old saying of see the forest through the trees. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's really such an important part of this. People with perspective tend to be good listeners. Also, and I think in our case, have empathetic tendencies. And these are skills that can be learned. And as you put it, they're strengths that the muscles can be exercised and strengthened and grown. Or if not, they can be outsourced to others. And it definitely works in this situation. If you're a solopreneur and perspective is, say, not a strength, it's really fabulous if you work with, say, a COO, a chief operational officer, or somebody who can bring that strength to your table. We haven't really talked about it, but for a lot of especially solopreneurs, put together like a board of directors or some sort of a kitchen cabinet type group that brings different skills to the table. But anyway, I digress. And I think those, when you talk about perspective, you need to have also a good healthy dose of self-knowledge
Mhm.
and an understanding of your own limitations. I like to think that I have a complete handle on my own limitations.
Ditto.
Probably, and can joke about my limitations. But these are, I think it's just sort of a healthy way of looking at yourself. And I will say at times perspective is very difficult. It's very difficult to be able to put yourself in some, or attempt. We can never actually put ourselves in someone else's shoes, but at least to look in that direction. And it can be very, very difficult. It's like judgment or even being judgmental is one of those things that can work with perspective or be on the opposite side of it as well.
I think that that's one of the things, like you said, that's something we lend to our clients is a healthy doses of perspective and being able to help them see the forest through the trees. And I had this conversation with someone recently. When you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, either way, sometimes we are so close to our own gifts or so close to our own project, we can't see it. You need that outside perspective to kind of pull you out of it. That's why I think coaching is such a great investment in your business. It's been really valuable for me. And then in lieu of coaching, your Square Squad gives you that perspective sometimes. And I think that's what's great about our friendship and our partnership is you often are the one to kind of tap me on the head and say, hey, don't forget about this, and give me that perspective that I need, because I can spin my wheels really fast in something. And sometimes I need you to pull me out of it. Like, hey, nope, think about this. Why are we doing this? What is it that we're doing? And so I think that I love what you said about you can, as a solopreneur, create this board of directors. There are other ways for you to gain perspective in your business when you lack that ability yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's such an important piece of it. I really cannot. Yeah, I don't think I can stress enough the importance of being able to holistically and realistically,
Hmm.
which I think really as come as part of offering or having perspective, just to have that ability in your business to for it to run properly, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think I'll use an example that recently came up with clients said that they wanted to do something mid-December, and it was being able to just take that pause and go, okay, you have 2 weeks basically to get that done. Or to look at clients that say, I really want to do this, and point out, okay, but what about these other personal things that you have going on in your life, or other, or you're in crisis, you don't have the ability to look at these other things with the fresh clarity in mind that you need to get it done. And so I think that these are things that we can do as coaches. And that's one thing that, like, we've been able to get from coaches ourselves, is that ability, again, to see the big picture, to keep you with accountability and keep you on track, because we forget sometimes, we get that bright and shiny object syndrome in things. And
Mm-hmm.
or the other side of that, and why perspective is so important. Sometimes things go wrong in our business. Every once in a while things go wrong, and you need that. It's not a matter of if, but it's always a matter of when. And so sometimes you just need
Mm-hmm.
that ability to maintain, like, how bad is this? I think that's one thing that's interesting about perspective. But I want to ask you, how's perspective different from toxic positivity?
Hmm.
Because I think that sometimes people will want to give perspective and say, yeah, but did you die? And, well, okay, yeah, that's an interesting perspective. That's not
Well,
really what we're talking about when we say perspective.
so I think of toxic positivity as being a very outward, it's I'm saying, oh yeah, but you woke up and you're breathing. Ooh, yeah, okay. But doesn't mean I'm feeling fabulous. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean that I am happy today. It doesn't mean any of those things. And it also doesn't mean that what I'm trying to cope with has a positive or negative outcome. When you're talking about perspective, first of all, I think it actually is very much of a mindset thing. You have to be willing to learn and grow. You have to be willing to be open to change your viewpoint. So it's not even, it's not necessarily just positive or negative, happy or sad, good or evil kind of thing. You could have a perspective that is fairly narrow, say, based on your worldview. I think perspective changes when you're open to reading a wide variety of materials. Like if you have right now, say in the world climate, the ability to look at, say, different news sources can change your perspective. The ability to look at different influencers can change your perspective. I mean, we could just talk about my son's perspective is that Nike makes the best sneakers. Well, all of a sudden he tries on a pair of Adidas cleats and it's like, oh, wow, how did I never try these on before? Well, he expanded his horizon. I mean, I don't mean to trivialize perspective, but sort of lays it out there. I mean, the same thing could be, remember all we wore were Jordache jeans. And then all of a sudden we had Calvins, Okay, I wore neither. They were too expensive, but anywho, and I had the ability also to, if you have the opportunity to travel and to see the world, that completely changes your perspective. A lot of people say small towns are the only way to live. Have you ever, and that may be the case, but have you ever actually ventured into a big town or a big city? Have you felt energy?
Right.
Maybe not in Christmas, but yeah, I mean, and how do you read a diverse, do you read a diverse, whether it's newspapers or magazines or just books? I mean, I think that with perspective comes the ability to question your assumptions. And I think that is absolutely critical. And for an entrepreneur, we come into business with a lot of assumptions. And the fact is, we need to test them. We need to challenge, and we need to watch as it evolves. I mean, I think about, in terms of us, some of our demographics have changed over the course of the past couple of years. Who is our target audience? Because we see that in some cases, let's just say that, moms with very young children, it is harder to ramp up a business and truly be, a solopreneur when you're also a stay-at-home mom. It's not as easy as people like you to think it is.
Right.
Oh God, it's not easy at all.
Much harder. It's so much harder. As a person who had a 9-month-old laying on the floor while she was trying to start up a business, y'all, it's not easy.
No, it's not at all. And at the same time, it's not always easy when your kids get older because responsibility shifts. So it's testing assumptions and then really learning from them. And really what I love to think about perspective is you really need to have a willingness to learn from your experiences and the willingness to be open to growing and cultivating a growth mindset, which we speak very openly, freely, and constantly about.
Yeah, because it's so important to maintain that big picture view. And that's one thing that we always talk about with clients too, is you have to have that 30,000-foot view. And so much of our coaching is holistic because we do factor in your personal life with your professional life and really kind of looking at that big picture from all of the angles. And that does tackle a lot of assumptions because so much of what we're bombarded with as online entrepreneurs, as online small business owners, is all of these tactics and things that we need to do that's going to supposedly make your business better or easier, or things that you should be able to do or not do. And I think it's being able to take that pause and go, is this right for me? Do I have the bandwidth and resources necessary to be successful at this? And if you have a strong sense of perspective or a strong sense, or you have somebody in your corner that does, it is able to factor in all of those things before you have knee-jerk reactions in your business to take on things or do things or say yes to things versus saying no to things. That with asking the question of, does this help me reach my goals? Does this serve
Mhm.
a bigger purpose? And if you lack that perspective, I think oftentimes people get so rigid in their goals or rigid in what they want that it's like that swimming upstream concept. Like, you can do it, you
Mhm.
can do it, and you can do it. You are doing business harder, not smarter, because you're lacking that ability to pivot and really connect with what matters and make the necessary changes either in your life or your business. And there's no right or wrong answer to get or achieve your goals. And that's where people get burnt out. That's where people get fed up and just quit because they're lacking that ability to see the big picture and make the necessary changes or pivots.
You are absolutely spot on. I actually have in front of me a question from the VIA Strengths Assessment,
Mm-hmm.
which talks about exercising that particular strength. When you have a moment, everyone, our listeners, think about a big picture that, something that envision something that might be possible. What is it that you want to say achieve? And actually, it's perfect timing. We're all looking towards, 2024. So take a moment and think about in the big picture strength, what is it you need to look at? You need to consider your mission and vision statement. And now would be the time, if you don't have one, to think about that. But really take a look at your mission and vision statement. And as you do the work that you're doing, as you work on projects, as you collaborate, even as you do your daily tasks, keep this mission and vision statement in mind. So again, you're looking at that big picture. You're putting things into perspective of what is it that you're really trying to achieve? What are your goals? What is your purpose? And how are you pursuing these goals? And I really love that because, well, not only because you just said it, but also because, again, we spend so much time. You had mentioned imposter syndrome. You had actually mentioned shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
But I think imposter syndrome also falls into the same kind of overarching nemesis of perspective
Mm-hmm.
because, ooh, wait, there's something shinier. Ooh, wait, I can't do that. All of these things that are contrary to a growth mindset, to really growing as a person, as an entrepreneur. If you really have this vision and mission and know where you're going and what your purpose is, it's sort of, I think it guides you to making those right decisions. Oh, this is just,
I
we
love that.
talk behind the scenes how things sort of tie together.
I know. It's such a beautiful thing. It's like, oh, we must have a business on the right track because all of the things that we talk about savor your life. This all this all falls into it. So I guess that's my next question then for you. How does this fit into the savor model?
Oh, okay. Well, that's actually, oh, that's a good question. I really think that a lot of perspective has to do with also where things fit into our lives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like we talk about the fact that this is lifestyle and not an empire. So there is a perspective there that says having to work over long periods of time, 40, 50 hours a week. Whoa, wait. Let's put things into perspective. That's not the purpose and vision, mission, etc. So I think that what overarching savoring your life really has to do with actually keeping things into perspective of what your purpose and goals are. I mean, I think it's part of that sort of preliminary. We talk a lot about preliminary work, like knowing your strengths, knowing your values, knowing what is important before you even set foot on the path, the journey of savoring your
Mhm.
life. And then it's making sure that, one of the huge parts of it would be the self-care piece, making sure that you keep the different pieces in perspective. Again, if you're working more than you really had intended, do you have the time to do the self-care? Do
Mhm.
you have the time to invest in your community and your connections? Actually, that's something that I sometimes struggle with, is actually the connections piece of it. Am I devoting the time that I want to and that I need to connecting and reconnecting with friends? I look and say, but this is really important to me. So yes. Also, I think sometimes that even the very part of stepping out of your comfort zone, you need to actually, again, have that foundational root of knowing and having an understanding. And I think to some extent perspective is also understanding of what is my comfort zone to begin with, and again, that also fits in with, how much, how much self-care do I really need? How
Mhm.
much connection, how much celebration do I need? Actually, perspective also fits really well, I think, with, as we go through this, we have transitions, and the opportunity when you're transitioning from one step to another, or from, one cycle to another. Part of transitioning, I think, is saying, okay, let's just sit down and see the forest through the trees. What
Yeah.
is the big picture? Again, I think that just really it's all about a holistic view. Life is not just selling a product or selling a service,
Mhm.
or business is just that in life too. It's not just about balancing your books, those sort of things. I think we need to look at really a much more holistic view of life, of our businesses, being women, being moms, being whatever we are, the hats that we wear. We need to see how they fit in together with each other. So perspective, I like to look at it really as it's rather personal, as opposed to, toxic positivity could be what, you say to me this morning, well, you woke up, be happy, bitch.
Which I did not say, for the record,
But
ever.
no, absolutely not. But I'm joking. I'm joking.
No,
It's all about a sense.
which
It's
is a
my
good thing.
perspective. But yeah, but it's really more of, even how we individually relate to each other, our willingness to grow and expand, which I think are so important. None of us really live in a bubble. And
Yeah.
that's another huge part, I think, of for a lot of solopreneurs. Especially if you work at home and may not get out a lot, or get out to do things that are, fairly routine. You go to the grocery store, you go to Target, Walmart, whatever, you do those sorts of things, maybe the car service,
Mhm.
but you're not really expanding your horizons. You really can be bubble-fied. Is that a new word? Bubble-fied?
Yeah. Well, you become stagnant in your ability
Yeah.
to learn. Like this, especially as an online entrepreneur, the landscape is constantly changing. And so I think that if you're not giving yourself the new perspectives, the new ideas that are out there, a new way of doing things, you will be left in the dust. I really do believe, especially as fast as things are changing with the introduction of AI. And I think that if you stay very rigid and this is how we do it, frankly, the way you do it, it will expire very, very fast. Like Wendy's wanting to sing "This Is How We Do It." I know it. This is how we do it. Well, I'll spare you all. I won't burst into song, but I think this is the difference between living a life by default and then living a life intentionally.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I just love this idea. And I think if you don't have that ability to have perspective on your own, let's say it's one of your lesser strengths, we've talked about find a community, find your square squad, hire coaches. We are taking on new clients. If you're looking for extra perspective in your business, by all means, book a call. But I think that this is just something about that's so important to be intentional about in your business, because it will feed your life. And I think that is
Mhm.
the big thing. I just love what you said. We are not monolithic people. We wear different hats. And so you have to keep all of those hats and all of those roles in mind when you are creating your business, whether it's creating a lifestyle business or creating an empire, because there's nothing more cliche than the CEO that is all by themselves. You
Yes.
know?
Yes.
And I just don't think I don't think that's the type of business or life any of us ever set out to create. And so I think just by nature of you asking the question, Wendy, of like, am I being intentional about my connections or reaching out or doing things about creating my community? I think you're light years ahead of most people, because I don't think all of us are that intentional about even asking the question.
Okay. As I was to say, I'm not always particularly successful, but I do. Yes, and I think a lot of this, again, it's all, part of a growth mindset really is the ability to ask and reflect and be willing to say, I could possibly do this a little differently. I need a little more information, and how can I be ultimately, really, it comes down to me. It's like, I want to be a better global citizen. I want to be a better family person. I want to be a better friend. Those sorts of things. And how can I do that? And it may just be the season of my life right now. Who knows? At least start the conversation by asking the questions and not feeling like you're judging yourself or anyone's judging you if you can't necessarily hit the target right now. It may not happen. Again, seasons of life are such that priorities shift, but at least start that conversation. And for entrepreneurs, again, I think it's really important to take the time to talk to your clients or customers, and even potential clients and customers, and get their feedback and take what their viewpoints are into perspective as well, as you grow and develop.
I love all of that.
Yeah.
I think that's a great place to end it, to be honest. So I would just love to know from our audience, how do you maintain perspective in your life and in your business? Reach out to us on social media, DM us, tell us, or reply to this week's newsletter, because I'm sure we'll ask that question at some point in there. And just tell us, how do you maintain perspective in your life and your business? And on that note, we will see you guys next week. Unless you have anything else you think we need to add, Wendy. Any other perspectives you'd like to add to this conversation?
No, I would just love to know what other people think. That will help me learn and me gain a new perspective as well.
Oh, so, love it.
Well, all right. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating.
But only if you liked it. Otherwise, just keep it to yourself.
You can learn more about purposeful podcasting on our website at serendipitousrebel.com.
And if you have topics you'd like to hear about, be sure to submit them on our website or DM us on social media.